Hello and welcome to the IRL F3 League. If you join us again tonight for round 6, the last round before the half-season break. Let's hope for a fantastic race. We've had 5 different race winners out of 5. It's becoming increasingly hard to predict, and we are tonight at the Brazilian Grand Prix, the Interlagos circuit, an incredible circuit. As the Brazilian fans make it a real atmosphere around this circuit. 2.6 miles long, 36 laps we'll be seeing tonight, 60,000 per person capacity. And tonight, as ever, I'm joined with Charlie Evening. But just to go back there, 5 different race winners out of 5. These guys are making it incredibly hard for us to predict, aren't they?
Yeah, good evening. It's good to be here again, watching these guys. And yeah, it's becoming ever harder to predict because, like you say, we've had 5 different winners from 5 races, and you just don't know from race to race really what's going to happen. It just seems to be who turns up on the day seems to win. So yeah, it's hard to predict, but it makes it more enjoyable to watch, so it's good.
Absolutely, of course. Something you want in motorsport, and certainly even in virtual motorsport like of course we have tonight, is you want unpredictability in your races, and unpredictability quite often makes fantastic championships. And right now in the championship, Craig is the man who's potentially managed to take things a little bit more into his grasp over the last few races. We've been calling out for some consistency from just one driver in the first 5 races, and Craig's began to really get his act together. He now leads the championship by 4 points to Luke Bailey, who I think in his own right has probably earned that right to be at least the second most consistent driver on the grid. But it looks like they've got a little bit of a gap between those two now, Charlie. F1 Richard 12 points behind Craig after a very good start to the season he had, F1 Richard. Is it going to be a straight fight between these two, or is it still a little bit too early?
I think it's still, with the unpredictability that we've seen in the races so far, I think it's still a little bit too early to say that those two are running away with it. So yeah, obviously Craig, like you say, over the last few races has really started to be a bit more consistent, and his pace has improved ever so slightly. But yeah, I think it's too early at the moment to really be saying anyone's a favourite.
Of course, but all of them will be looking to try and get into this week break with the absolute maximum round 6 they can possibly get, and see them all just about ready to come out for the qualifying session. 18 minutes they have on the clock to go out there and set the fastest lap time they can. In terms of tyre choice, Charlie, it's a circuit which you see 2 Alphas come out almost nose to tail there. They're desperate to get back out. They're very strong in qualifying, as they are then followed by the Haas. But in terms of tyre choices, Charlie, we should be expecting quite a lot of guys to really be on the soft or maybe even the mediums, shouldn't they?
Yeah, I think it's round here it's a soft to medium race quite comfortably, low tyre wear. So yeah, it's soft to medium, but the only thing you've got to watch out for is not overheating the tyres in that middle sector, because it's really tight and twisty, and it's important that you get good traction out of those slow corners. So and out of the last corner up the hill as well. So yeah, it's key to keep the tyre temperatures down, but tyre wear is not that high. So yeah, soft to medium is what we'd be expecting from most of these guys tonight.
And it'll be interesting to see if the 2 Alfa Romeos going out nose to tail, and the 2 Haas cars also doing the same thing behind them. It'll be interesting to see if these guys are going to perhaps give a little bit of slipstream to their teammate to try and boost each other up the rankings the best they can in qualifying. At the moment it looks like the 2 Alphas just find a little bit of space to get their original bankers out of the way and done with. They've still got plenty of time. They should have plenty of soft tyres if they do want to qualify on a soft, so they should have no problem with that. They've got plenty of time to do that. Luke Bailey will be the first man to set his banker lap time, and the Alfa Romeos have been very, very impressive in qualifying, but they've got to step it up a little bit, you've got to feel. In Germany, it was a little bit of a change in the guard, but he's expecting the Alphas to be right at the front. They weren't quite. They was not far. Luke Bailey was in P5, but it was a pole position snatched away by Craig, and the race before that it was TG Jeffrey. So the early Alpha dominance in qualifying is perhaps coming to an end, but I'm sure they'll be looking to get it up and running here in Brazil before the midweek break the best they can. As Luke Bailey now flinging it all the way to this right hand, and they're going to want to try and drop it down the gears. It's really hard traction zone in this middle twisty technical section. This middle sector, you've got to get on the power best you can. It's going to be difficult with traffic as well. The racing point there gets out of the way the best he can, and it's really crucial for these guys to try and set an original banker. So they've got plenty of sets of tyres, so it's not the end of the world if they do ruin this one lap as Mercedes gets out of the way. Luke Bailey, of course, going purple, he's the first man to set a flying lap time. He's got his teammate who will be crossing the line in close proximity very soon as well. But Charlie was touching it there. As you see, I think got a spinner from one of the Red Bulls. I think they just got himself back going. But Luke Bailey does a 1 minute 9.4. So which is then immediately beaten by his teammate Simon with a 9.9 flat. The Alfa Romeos have been so dominant in qualifying, but it has slipped away from them a little bit over the past 2 rounds, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've not seen such great qualifying performances from the last couple of rounds, and maybe that's hampered them. They seem to be involved in a couple of incidents during the races, so I think one of them, especially Simon, just needs to get pole tonight and stretch his lead early on, because he needs a result tonight to get back into the championship.
Absolutely, I'm sure he'll be doing his absolute best to do it. I see a couple of guys leaving there. Hopefully it won't be a restart, but we'll have to wait and see. And of course, that is one of the things that we just have to try and do. Obviously, a couple of guys going through as well. Drazio's gone himself up into the provisional P2. Got a yellow flag in the middle sector. I think that's just cars getting out of the way. He's done a 1 minute 9.2, so he's put himself a respectable lap. Brennon's in 4th place. He's done a 9.4. Put himself 4th. He had an incredible performance in the German Grand Prix. I'm sure he'll be looking to back that up the best he can, and see what Nitro Gas can do in the Red Bull. It wasn't a great race at all for the 2 Red Bulls in Germany after a bit of an up and down start to the season. Is now coming rounding out this last corner. Want to try and get the best on the power absolutely as soon as you can. You want to go on top speed on the throttle the best you can to try and get the top speed you possibly can. He's going to flick open DRS. He's going to come sweeping past the pit lane. He's going to hug the inside wall, try and get himself onto the provisional front line, but he's not. He's going to put himself into P6, 1 minute 9.6. There's Vortex in P5 there with 0.4. And Drazio didn't have a great race, it must be said, in Germany, only picking up a solitary point, I believe, because after such a good result in Spa. But he set himself a really decent banker there, splitting the 2 Alfa Romeos.
Yeah, that's definitely a good banker. It's going to set him up nicely, because he should be able to get another 2 runs in at least on that soft tyre. So yeah, if he feels there's time to be had there, he's got another couple of attempts. I'm just looking at JSP. He's just set a lap on the soft tyre. He's coming in the pits now, but that's a 1.97. That's not a bad banker on his return to the F3 League. We know he was here last season, and I think he finished 2nd behind Rimac. So I'm sure he's got a bit more pace in the locker if he can find that as well.
Absolutely, and Stephen improves his time to a 10.5. He's gone out on those hard tyres, so still I'm sure he's got plenty of time left in the bank. There's a lot of guys in the pits right now as Spud managed to get himself back in the session, which is always good to see. And Luke Bailey now going out on an out lap for his 2nd one. I'm sure he'll be back on those soft tyres. And Stephen, the only man to set a time on the hard tyres so far, but he has gone ahead of Tinnis, who's on 10.9 on those soft tyres. So I'm sure he'll be looking to get a little bit of time left for him. Craig still yet to set a lap time as well. I think he did set a lap time, but I think it might have been invalidated, so I'm sure he'll be quick to try and get that one rectified. But it is Simon Palmer on the provisional pole at the moment. He's sat in the pits, of course. I think he's trying his best to get back into the session. Of course, it's not ideal when you're sat in P1 to have disconnection problems, but we'll see how that goes. F1 Richard sat down there in P9. He's done a 10 flat, so he's puts him just behind the 2 Mercedes-Benz, and it's going to be a little bit strange for Steele. Of course, no Mike for the rest of the season, which is a great shame. But he's got JSP now. As you said, a driver who we know well in the league, and should be we expect him to be right up by the front. And we'll see how he does. He's immediately just pipped his teammate by a 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, he's I'm sure this will. We know Mike was in it before, and probably wasn't pushing Steele as hard as he'd like a teammate to push him. And hopefully JSP can push him a bit further and try and help Mercedes get up the standards in the constructors as well.
Absolutely, and here comes Jeffrey, who's on his 2nd account tonight, but he wants to get his 1st lap at least done on the medium tyres. He's been one of the most pace-threatening drivers on the grid. He's certainly made a real account of himself in the first 5 rounds. He had an awful race in Germany after such good pace in qualifying, and some really good races in Spa and the opening 3 rounds. Got a yellow flag there. I think that's just Drazio getting out of the way. But if he wants to get himself back up into the grid, and one thing I'm sure he'll be pleased to know, Charlie, is it's dry in qualifying. I'm sure he'll be hoping it's dry for the race, because he had a bit of a nightmare in the rain of Germany.
Yeah, it didn't really go well for him last week at all in those tricky conditions, and evidently he didn't like it. So I'm sure he's hoping for a dry race, and we know this track can throw up a lot of different weather, so I wouldn't bank on it being dry.
No, of course not. And so I think just one of McLaren's going wide there at turn 4 and 5. I think he gets back on the track okay. It's a nice big run off over there, so it should be okay. As Jeffrey comes across the line at 1 minute 9.8, so 8 tenths of a second off pole. What in medium trials, that's not a bad effort at all. F1 Richard has just crossed the line. He's got himself into P6 with a 0.5, so that's a tenth or two off his teammate. Who was saying Brennan's had an absolute storming German Grand Prix, starting outside the top 10 onto the podium. He had a fantastic race and really made a really good account of himself with some fantastic flying laps. He still comes across the line and goes P1 with a 9 flat. Fantastic lap from the Mercedes driver. Another driver had a horrid time in the pouring rain of Hockenheim. He goes P1 and knocks Simon Palmer down a little bit. As Duratio now in the first sector goes purple, he's gone a tenth and a half quicker, so these guys are already getting much quicker, and with 9 minutes left on the clock, Charlie, it seems like could very quickly find a driver in 1 minute 8.
Yeah, the track's looking good. It's nice and warm out there by the looks of it, so the track is only going to be getting better and better as these guys go round. A brilliant time by Steele, and I fully expect someone to break the 1 minute 8 barrier now, so let's just wait and see if that happens.
Duratio now coming around, it's just about to finish this second sector, and of course the last sector is very easy. You've got one real hard turn to make, but it's a quite difficult turn to make because it is quite hard in traction, but he's gone purple in that middle sector as well, and he's got all the motivation that he needs. He just want to try and get the absolute top speed he can. He's going to probably try and hug the left hand side of the pit wall, give himself the shortest distance to the flag. He's got the rear ring wide open, and crosses the line, and there we are then at 8.8. He's not just got into the 8s, he's got into the 8.8, so he's had a very comfortable lap there.
Yeah, he got a really good exit off that last corner. Like I said, traction is key, and he's put himself up onto pole, I believe.
I think we might be having a restart. Yeah, a lot of guys leaving the session, which is obviously, and I do just have it popping up there on my phone that we do have a restart the session, which is always a bit of a shame and always a bit of a disaster, and we're all very sorry about that. Of course, just when sure Duratio would be the most disappointed of everyone, we start such a competitive banker lap there. But I suppose for at least these guys, you can see it as that's an added practice, and Duratio, I'm sure he'll be now looking to go out into that next session, and he'll be wanting to get right back into 1 minute 8, I'm sure.
Because that's a very competitive lap time, so yeah, it's difficult doing a restart session and trying to go back out there and replicate what you've just done. It can be very difficult to get back into that rhythm. It can just unsettle you a little bit, so let's see who can get back into that rhythm better than the others, but I'm sure Duratio will not be far off the top.
Yeah, he's doing his absolute best to look at trying to board Luke Bailey here. He knows there's a new session being made, but he's perhaps just using this time to just give himself an extra lap of practice, I'm sure, as the Nitro Gas leaving the session as well. Get the new lobby set up as soon as we can for you guys. Of course, this is one of those things, because the Codemaster service are not the most reliable service in the world, and so it's just one of the things we just sort of have to put up with. But it's better to get these niggles and falls all out of the way before the race starts, and I'm sure it'll be a very good qualifying session, and we'll just get into the new lobby right about now for you guys as we just load it up now. But at least this does give us a chance to go over the race in Germany, Charlie. And one man who stood out, we know the championship, it is Craig followed by Luke, and it was Craig followed by Luke in Germany. Those two were sort of in a league of their own, but particularly in the latter stages of the race, Brennan's, who is a driver who's sort of been threatening to do that for quite a while in their first few rounds, really seemed to get his act completely together and pulled off an incredible performance in the end.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Brennan's during the race. I mean, obviously his qualifying wasn't as good as what he did in the race, but in the race he just looked spot on. He was had perfect lines through every corner, he was getting good traction, and just his pace was unbelievably consistent as well. So he just seemed to be getting quicker and quicker as the race went on, when everyone else seemed to be falling off. And I mean, if the race was a couple of laps longer, I think he could have gone for second or maybe even first. So it was really impressive from Brennan's, and hopefully he can carry that form into this week and get himself up into the championship positions.
I remember there's 3 laps in a row where he set the fastest lap of the race. All of them were in the same point of a tenth to the lap. It was an incredible consistency, you were saying. Then did a lap without a fast lap. The lap later, he improved on his faster lap by 4 tenths of a second. He was just getting faster and faster and faster. It was a really, really impressive drive, and he's been friendly to do that. As you say, qualifying perhaps is a little of Achilles heel. It seems to be Achilles heel of both McLarens, but as we've been saying so far in all 5 of the opening races, both McLaren drivers, and they may not be all there in qualifying, but their racecraft and their racing abilities and their race pace seems to be up there with the very best in this league.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. His race pace is just incredible. So, yeah, like I say, it's just going to be interesting to see if he can carry that over to this week.
I'm sure I'll be absolutely looking forward to it. And of course, it was a disappointing race for a lot of the guys who were near the front. Jeffrey, Wojtek and Steele, all of them really, really struggling. Dreja as well, I think he got P10, so he got himself a point, which I'm sure was not what he wanted after his win in Spa. He was hoping to try and carry that over, and I'm sure he's still got his eyes on the championship, but he's got a lot of points to make up after that bad race as well. And a lot of those guys who we know are very, very quick and got the pace to challenge Craig and Luke for the championship this season. I'm sure they'll be looking to absolutely get their championship hopes back underway here in Brazil. And I'm sure just a minute or two away from getting back underway for qualifying here for round 6 in Brazil. And a strong result again for Williams. There seems to be a team who are quite consistent and quite equal on pace, Gareth and Stephen. I think Gareth obviously had better luck in Spain, but they seem to be following each other around. Again, a bit like McLaren, they don't qualify always near the front, but they do seem pretty consistent, pretty handy in the race trim, because they seem to keep out of trouble a little bit better than perhaps some of the guys near the front.
Yeah, the two Williams do seem to be having quite clean races. They do definitely need to improve on that qualifying pace, because with what we've seen from their race pace, they could have even stronger races if they didn't qualify so far back. So yeah, if they can improve on that, I'm sure that they'd be even more competitive. But yeah, like Gareth, he had a really good race in Spain. Obviously, nicked that podium right at the end with Joe's mistake. And I think he only seems to be improving on this new steering wheel of his. So I expect to see him improve towards the end of the season, and hopefully be in with a better shot at the title next season. And I know Stephen has provided us with some good races from himself as well. Collecting good points and helping out the Williams and the constructors.
Yeah, they've been trying to keep it as consistent as they can, the two Williams. And in terms of constructors, we'll just quickly go over. Alfa Romeo are leading the Constructors' Championship at the moment. McLaren are in second, Renault are in third, and Alfa Romeo and Renault particularly, they probably just need both drivers consistently scoring strong, high points consistently. Of course, Craig in Renault, as we know, is leading the championship. Synchronously, he's had some up and downs. He had a really good race, to be fair to him. He really brought home some good points for the Renault team in Germany. I think he finished P4 in the end, or it might have been P5. So he did a very good job for himself there. And of course, we all know Simon, or formerly known, of course, of Mr. P, won round 1 in Japan. It was a really, really strong race for him. He seemed to go off the ropes a little bit, Charlie, for the next 4 rounds, really. But after Germany in the rain, he seemed to at least show that he might have plastered over those cracks a little bit, because he seems to be back on the forward path.
Yeah, he really needed that result in Germany. It was only P4, but it was looking like it could have been stronger had he just kept his race pace together a little bit better. But yeah, he definitely looked like he made a step forward in Germany from the previous 3 or 4 races. So it'd be good to see if he can carry that through to this week and hopefully maybe even get a podium tonight.
I'm sure he'll be absolutely looking forward to getting back underway, and I'm sure that's what he'll have his eyes set forward on too. And we do get this qualifying session back underway. We apologise for the delay, as we say. It's just one of those things, but all it means is these guys are going to be even more prepared and even more keen, I'm sure, to get back up there and set the fast lap. We can see JSP there in the Mercedes garage. He's very quickly wanting to get back on the circuit. There is the Alfa Romeo and the 2 Hasses going down the pit lane. They want to get back out as well. Renault as well, and Williams, and they're also keen to get back out there. Of course, perhaps a lot of them don't need that bank lap as much anymore. They've done a lap or 2 in the previous session, so it should be all guns blazing. Go out and set the quickest lap as soon as you can.
Yeah, definitely. Just want to get out there on those softs now. I mean, a few guys did their banker laps in the previous session, so they've had a bit more time to prepare. So, yeah, like you say, everyone just needs to get out there on that soft compound now and get their laps in.
And Simon Palmer should be the first man to set that first banker lap in this new session, and he's been certainly got a good account of himself in qualifying. He's probably been the most consistent qualifier on the grid. Of course, it was Alfa Romeo who locked out the first 3 pole positions of the season. It was only TT Jeffrey in round 4 who in Spain who broke that record, and then Craig, of course, put in a fantastic lap in Germany, which of course was crucial to his victory. He held on to that lead almost from start to finish. Only in the pit stop phase did Craig lose that race lead. But here comes Simon, and he's going to come around this flying last bend, and he's going to try and get absolute top speed he can. He's going to try and brake as late as he dares, but it's so crucial to hit this apex because turn 2 is such a difficult corner. You want to get on the power as soon as you can, but if you cut it too much, it's perhaps one of the only corners where, in terms of penalties and corner cutting, we could see a lot of drivers be affected by that turn 2.
Yeah, it's really difficult through there. It can be quite frustrating at times. The slightest little sort of, you run wide or take turn 2 a bit too tight, and the game can invalidate your lap. So yeah, these guys have really got to try and push the limits through there, but not over push and pick up warnings and ultimately penalties.
Let's see, Simon just coming up behind one of the tail offsides. I'm sure I'll get out of the way the best he can. I think might just have I think it's just on the exit at turn 5 there. One of the Red Bulls trying his best to stay out of the way. I think might have just lost it coming out of turn 4, but he's done his best to get out of the way. As Simon now coming around the last couple of bends now, he's gone purple in the middle sector. Of course, he will be the first man to set this flying lap, and traffic will be quite hard on this circuit here. Of course, it is only a 2.6 mile long track. It's 36 laps that these drivers will be doing tonight, so they're going to have to keep concentration 36 times for this very demanding race course. Going to hug that pit lane wall and then come across the line at 1 minute 8.9. And that is already faster than he did in the previous session, so straight away we should be in for a treat, Charlie, because a lot of drivers seem like they might already be going quicker than they were previously.
Yeah, it's a very good first lap time by Simon, like you say, even better than what he did in the previous session, so I'm sure he'll be very happy with that, and he doesn't seem to be affected by the lobby restart at all.
No, absolutely not. And here comes Craig now, just about to finish off his middle sector on his first flying lap, and of course the runner driver leads the Drivers' Championship right now, and Renault sitting quite comfortably in third. In the Constructors, it seems to be those 3 teams with the best chance, it looks like, in the Constructors' Championship. It'll be really interesting. Of course, he knows Luke Bailey has got to be his number 1 priority so far tonight, and Luke Bailey does do 1 minute 9.4, so it's been provisional P2. What can Craig do as he comes across the line and immediately beats his championship rival by just the slimmest of margin, 200ths of a second? And but Mr. P, I'm sure he'll be licking his lips because he'll be looking behind as Brennan's now sets a 1 minute 9.2. But Mr. P's got quite a nice cushion so far.
Yeah, it's a very handy cushion that. It must feel quite nice to have. As you see Draggio coming over the line now, what can he do? We know he was fast in the last session. Does a 9.0, so he's really putting the pressure on Simon now.
And Synchronously as well, they're doing a 9.0 right behind the tail also Draggio. So those two doing really nicely as well. We're right on board with Still B. See what he can do. I think he put himself quite up there amongst conversation for position in the previous session, so I'm sure he'll be looking to try and get back into the 8s or maybe in a 9.0 as just the first lap. But we'll see what his middle sector time is, and Brennan's 1 minute 9.2. I'm sure I'd be very pleased with that. Of course, as you're saying, the 2 McLaren drivers perhaps need to improve on their qualifying a little bit, and that's a very good banker there for Brennan's. I'm sure he'll be looking to try and qualify near the front, but what can Mercedes do? It looks like he's saving ERS, and he's backed out of it, so he's clearly not 100% comfortable with that lap. We'll see what else everyone else is going to do. So Spud, he's gone out on those hard tyres, so he's perhaps just trying to work his way back into the circuit a little bit more, and be interesting to see what the 2 Williams drivers do, because they don't quite often. They're quite often very. I was talking to Gareth in the middle of the week, and he's always so eager to start on clean tyres, because he knows if you get a good start with fresh tyres, that can be such an advantage to you in the race.
Yeah, it can. It's amazing the difference that the two laps or 3 laps that you don't do on the tyre can make in the race. Just going those 3 laps longer, even with a bit of luck, you might have a safety car during those 3 extra laps, and you can find yourself jumping way up the order, and alternatively doing the the strategy the other way around, starting on the harder of the two compound that you'd use, you can find yourself in some really good positions in the race. So sometimes it is beneficial not to really get into the top 10, but obviously everyone, if you want to be competitive and fight for podiums, you've got to be qualifying properly. So yeah, it would be nicer to see everyone really going for it and doing what they can on the softer compound.
Yeah, all guns blazing, that's what it won as Gareth comes across that first sector time, and he's done a purple first sector there on the medium tyre, so he's clearly got a little bit of pace about him. I'm sure if he feels confident enough, he'll go onto the soft tyre and go all guns blazing, as you were saying. It's now coming around the top of the hill now around turn 6, and he's got to drop it down into the difficult right-left hairpins, and he's got to try and open up this left the best he can. It's a really difficult traction zone. Got to be easy on those rear tyres. They're so easy to light them up and send you flying into the wall, and then try and open up this tight right-hander. It's a little bit wide, but as long as he gets a good exit and come down the hill now into this fast left, see what his middle sector timers be. Of course, these medium tyres will be quite a bit slower than these soft tyres, but he's setting a really nice sector there, just losing the rear a little bit around that last corner. But as long as he gets on the power down nicely, as long as he's got a nice straight line speed in that Williams, I'm sure he'll be able to set a nice competitive lap time. He's going to hug this pit lane wall. Be interested to see what he does. He goes into the 9s, 1 minute 9.7, which isn't a bad lap considering he is, of course, on those harder medium tyres.
Yeah, that's a very good lap actually by Gareth. I expect if he were to go out on the soft now, he'd probably find 7 or 8 tenths in the lap. So yeah, it's a great banker on the medium, and I'm sure he'll be eager to get out there on the soft now and improve. And
right on the board of our provisional pole sitter, Simon Palmer, who's just gone faster in that first sector by just about a half a tenth of a second. I'm sure he'll be looking to find even more time. As you see there, I think that's the racing point of Jeffrey. Just facing the wrong way in the barrier there. I think he's even damaged his front wing, so he's going to have to come back in the pits and change that if he wants to set a competitive lap time. It's saying it's so easy to do that, such a difficult traction zone. But see, someone's maybe just a little bit distracted by that racing point in the barrier. He's lost a little bit of time in that middle sector, but if he's got a good run and a good toe to launch himself out of that final corner, in fact he backs out a bit, so almost hitting the wall there. I think he did hit the wall as he comes into the pit lane. And so as Drajo's I think already done exactly the same lap time. I think it might have just improved by just a little bit to a 9.0, but it's gone even faster in that first sector, almost 2 tenths quicker. And Mr. P potentially finding a little bit of pressure after not hooking up that second lap the best he could have done, and still now does an 8.8, so he's now found about just over a tenth to put himself provisional pole there. Good lap.
Great lap by Still. I didn't really see that one coming, but yeah, he's popped himself up onto provisional pole, so it's getting really competitive now. There's not much between the first 4 or 5 drivers, so yeah, they're all going to be out there. They should probably get 2 more runs in from now, so be interesting to see who can take it to Still from here.
Well, Drajo's going purple in that middle sector. He might even just about to nab a little bit of a toe off this Haas in front. He's going to hug that inside line for the shortest distance, so Haas comes into the pits. He was 2 tenths up, and he goes just half a tenth slower and still in the lap, but he does get himself on second place, and Brennon's dips into the 8s as well, so he's put himself up into P3, so a very nice lap for him. We'll see what JSP can do. He's looks like he's backed out, but he's done an 8 into the 1 minute 8s as well, so but interesting, that is only good enough for 5th place now, so it shows how quickly these times are tumbling.
Yeah, incredible. 1st to 5th separated by under a tenth and a half, so it's getting incredibly competitive now, and I think we're only going to see the times plummet as this session goes on and the track rubbers in.
Absolutely, of course. Championship leader Craig perhaps under a little bit of pressure now. 8 minutes left in the session, so he's got plenty of time. He's got plenty of time to do laps after this. If he doesn't hook this one up, he's going a little bit quicker in that first sector, but it's down in P9. 1 minute 9.4. He's got to find 6 tenths of a second, which is quite a lot to find around quite a relatively short Formula 1 track, but he's got plenty of clear track ahead of him, and if he can just hook up this middle sector the best I know sure he can do to the best of his abilities, I'm sure he can get himself back up there along with his teammate, and I'm sure he'll be aiming all the way to get himself at least into the 8s, and he's going to come across this middle sector. He's gone purple, he's found 3.5 tenths, which put him just on the brink of the 8s, but he has to find a little bit more time around this last corner into this last sector. Has he got a slippery setup on to give him the best straight line speed he possibly can? He's going to come and hug the inside wall, try and get the shortest distance across the line, saving EOS as he crosses the line. He does get into the 8s, but again, it's only good enough for P5. It's almost it's crazy. I mean, it's just so 3 thousandths of a second quicker than JSP and P6.
I don't want to jinx it, but this is going to be great if these times are translated into the race, and these guys are really this close on pace. So yeah, this could be a very tasty race if these guys are so closely matched. But yeah, a good lap by Craig. It's really fine margins now. It's a 10th here or there could send you pole or down to 6th.
Absolutely, it's just so hard to call. I mean, even those guys who are doing the 1 minute 9 flats, it's a very respectable lap time. So Luke Bailey down in P8, I'm sure he'll be desperate to get himself back up there. As you're saying, he's one of the more consistent ones. But I'm also sure he'll be licking his lips if his Steven comes into the pit lane, and I'm sure Brennan will be licking his lips if his race pace is as good and strong as it normally is. I'm sure third position will be a very handy qualifying position for him. And perhaps go and try and ride on board the Alfa Romeo of Simon, and going to sit on the grass a little bit around there. He's going to try and hook it up this hard right-handed hairpin the best he can. Going a little bit of grass. He knows he's going to have to try and find a little bit of time if he wants to put himself back onto provisional pole. He's going to be giving the Williams behind him a nice little toe. It's just a little bit slower.
Yeah, it looks like that middle sector cost him.
But he might be giving a lovely toe. I think this might be Gareth behind him potentially. He might just be as Mr. Simon Palmer falls out the way, so he wasn't going quicker. Perhaps didn't want to give the Williams any more of a toe, and there we are. The toe really has worked because he's gone pole position by nearly half a tenth.
Yeah, I think that toe definitely just gave him those 300ths there that he has got over still in second place. Another time, look, this is incredible. How close these guys are tonight. It's going to be really entertaining, this race. Great lap by Gareth. I wasn't really expecting that one.
No, I don't think we will. It's all eyes on Simon Palmer to try and take that provisional pole, saying it's been such a good track record in qualifying so far this season. But he looked in his mirrors and he saw Williams absolutely flying up the hill, and he was giving an absolute brilliant toe to, and that Williams went across the line and went P1. A fantastic lap from Gareth there, and 5 minutes on the clock. He is the man to beat, and as someone who's not always there in qualifying, he had a very good qualifying in Spain, but as they're saying, he's usually quite happy just to sit back in qualifying and try and get himself the best fresh rubber for the race. But P1 would be an incredible experience for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be incredible, as he's not, as we say, not used to that. So it'd be interesting to see how he deals with that if he does end up there. But 4.5 minutes, just over 4.5 minutes left in this session. Anything can happen.
Absolutely, of course. Now it's the F1 Richard. He's going to try and find a little bit more time. Sat in P13. Of course, qualifying isn't his strongest point, but he has going 3/10 faster than his previous best. And of course, if he can get into the low 1 minute 9s, or maybe even dip into the 8s, I'm sure it'll boost him up a whole heap of positions. He wants to be inside that top 10 if he possibly do it. He is still third in that Drivers' Championship, and he does improve, but he only improves by 3/10 seconds, which is only good enough for one place. Which of course is not what I'm sure he'll be looking forward to at all. There's Drazio now going. He's currently sat in P3. He's only got to find a tenth of a second to put a provisional pole. He's going to see what he can do. He comes down the hill on this fast left. He's got a Renault ahead of him. He's gone purple in that middle sector. He's improving by just half a tenth, so it's going to be really close again to see where he can match him with this time set provisionally by Gareth on provisional pole position. He's got a Renault ahead of him. Can he nip a little bit of a toe like Gareth did? I think the Renault's just pulled into the pit, so he might not be able to, but he's going to come across the line, and he does go pole. It's going to 1 minute 8.7, so again, times are tumbling.
Times are tumbling. I'm sure he'll want to get back to the pits quickly if he has got another set of those softs left, because everyone else is now in the pits preparing themselves for that final push for pole position. And
Stephen, I'm sure after seeing his teammate lighting up the timesheets, going purple and going provisional pole, he's put on a new set of soft tyres, and he's going half a second quicker in this middle sector. I'm sure he's going to try and put himself right on the back with his teammate. He wants to try and put himself near the front the best he can. He's having a really nice middle sector. Of course, he's only doing he's done a 9.6 already, and but I think that's on the medium tyre, so he's going to cross the line and improve quite comfortably in 9 minute 0, which is again only 3/10 off pole, but that's still only good enough for P9.
Yeah, it's so close, this race. I think being a shorter track probably causes this a bit more, because there's less chance to make a mistake on the lap. So it does obviously help bring the field closer together, but this is incredibly close, and I really can't call who's gonna stick it on pole here. So yeah, let's. I'm looking forward to these final runs and see who's got the nerve to put that pressure lap in and take it to Drazio.
So yeah, JSP there just invalidating on that most recent one. He's going to struggle a little bit for time. He's going to have to hope for a speedy change of tyres by the Mercedes pit crew. If he is going to want to try and get another lap, there's quite a lot of guys in the pits. I'm sure they're just biding their time because it is only a 1 minute 8 second lap time, so you can leave it late to go for that last run. Simon Palmer, this will be his last run. Let's see, he's currently sat in P5. Can he improve on that position at all? He does, but then it goes up to P4, and then he just half a tenth off Gareth really, but he's only down into P4, and of course with so many guys in the pits coming throughout, he could be in trouble of dropping outside the top 5 or 6.
Yeah, he needs to get back out there and put another lap in quickly. I think, did someone just jump up? Was that Steele? Or no, Steele's just starting a lap now, so we got I think Steele might be the first out of that top 5, or maybe Simon, I'm not sure. I think Steele might be the first out of that top 5 who's on a lap, so I'm going to ride on board with him and see how he does.
Certainly be interesting to see, and of course he's gone quicker in that first sector, and of course he is perhaps in a little bit of awkward position. Of course he's on his final lap now. A lot of guys on track ahead of him are on their out lap, so let's just have to hope they are mind wary of that. Of course we saw an incident in Germany, TT Jeffrey getting in the way, I believe it was, of Luke Bailey in qualifying. It is easy to do, you just assume everyone behind you is on an out lap, but he is going quicker, and of course there's a lot of guys as well. They've got a yellow flag in the middle sector. I think that's just one of the Red Bulls just backing off to give himself a bit more time. The Red Bulls currently sat in P15 and P16. The only team doing worse than them in qualifying so far is the two Ferraris, but two Ferraris do quite often like to, I think, to just start at the back and get himself fresher tyres. It still goes purple in that middle sector. He's going half a tenth quicker. He's still going to have to find a little bit if he wants to beat that original lap time of Drazio of a 1.8728. So, but I have to see what he's got. Has he got a slippery car in a straight line? Is he going to have that last sector that needs to put himself on provisional pole? He doesn't. He doesn't actually improve in the end. It's a 1 minute 9.0. It's again a competitive lap, but it's just not quite all there.
He got a really bad run through the last corner. He just seemed to be a bit too timid and didn't carry that much speed through there, and it really compromised his run out onto the straight. So if you do compromise your run out onto that straight, you're just losing time hand over fist up that hill, and as we saw, he went from being half a tenth up to a tenth and a half down, so 2 tenths that cost him.
And Luke Bailey retiring from the session. I think he's just sat in the pit lane with retiring, I believe. So he's not going to go quicker. But him down to P12, that's a real hammer for his championship aspirations. I suppose the only good thing to him is that championship leader Craig is currently only 7th. So a lot of pressure on these top 2 guys at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he's miles off on pace either, Luke. He's only 3 tenths off, 3.5 sort of tenths off pole down in P12. So it just shows how close these guys are tonight. It's really great to watch. Well,
this should be interesting because Simon Palmer's doing about a 3rd lap on his soft tyres, but it said he's going quicker in that middle sector. Does he go quicker? No, he doesn't. He does back off in the end in that last sector, but it'll be interesting to see who else can go quicker. Gareth is coming up to this last corner. He's going slow in that middle sector, so he's decided to back off. So there's a bit of an open goal for Drazio at the moment, but he's got to be a little bit careful. This car's ahead of him at the moment. I think we've got Brennons, who's about to set a lap time as well. And I think that's just Jeffrey just losing it a little bit. Was that Jeffrey? I think it might have been Drazio. Sorry, he just lost it coming out that last corner. So is he now retires from the session? Can Brennons improve? Now he's going to start in P6. So it's really now down to what can Craig do. And he's in the pit lane, so it looks like it might be all as you were on this final run. I've got a couple of guys still out there, I believe. In fact, no, I think
Colin
that's it.
Just popped himself up into P7, so that was a great lap by Colin at the end there, just to push himself up into the top 10. Yeah, very nice lap. So another guy, you know, just super competitive here, and it's shaping up to be a really good race.
Yeah, it really is, and seems like no one managed to go faster in that last flying lap, but there's some fantastic laps pulled off there. And I mean, look at that, from 2nd place all the way down to 6th place, they're all within the same tenth of a second. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. A fantastic lap from Drazio, the only man to get into the .7s, a well-deserved pole position for him. And as you say there, a good lap from Colin at the end there, who got some good points in Germany for the Ferrari team, and it's going to be starting at the back, but won't worry too much about Suspard. He had that incredible opening lap in Germany, got himself right from the back all the way up into the points. It was one of the best first laps I've seen for certainly a long time. But there you are. Then here's confirmation, and just how close it was. Just under 4 tenths separates the pole position to 13th place Luke Bailey. But Drazio is your pole sitter. Captain Stiff is in P2. Wojtek and Steele are P3 and P4. JSP, good return from him. Palmer Collins, who's saying great position for him. Brennan's drops to 8th. Craig, our championship leader, in 9th. Tinnis in 10th. Stephen Synchronously and Luke Bailey follow him. And Jeffrey, such a good qualifier, is down to 14th. And F1 Richard, I think, was down there in 16th, just behind Malc. And of course, the Ferrari, so Spud. But Brennan's, who's looking like it's having such a good qualifying for him. And all of a sudden, he's going to find himself a little bit further outside the top 6, I think he was. So it just shows how quickly those times change, and we just don't. That half a tenth can really make the difference between starting maybe 8th and starting 4th.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but it's just incredible how close they all were in qualifying, and it really is looking like it's going to be a good race. I just hope that it lives up to what qualifying was. But yeah, Brennan's. He shouldn't be too disheartened with that, to be honest. He's, as we've seen before, he's got really good race pace, so I expect him to be fighting to move forward in the race rather than backward.
Of course, they've all got some really strong race pace, so I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of overtaking. Of course, this track can be, like so many tracks on the calendar, there can be a little bit of a DRS train. It'll be interesting, but it's going to be so crucial that these guys, if they don't want to fall out of a position, that if they want to move forward, they're going to have to stay in the DRS of the cars ahead of them, and it'll be absolutely crucial to do that. They don't get held up battling too much on the opening laps, and cloudy skies, Charlie, which in Brazil can quite often spell trouble for a lot of these guys potentially later on in the race.
Yeah, like we said before in the qualifying session, that you never quite know what the weather's going to do here in Brazil, and it can be really unpredictable. So yeah, I mean, those clouds, they are a lot darker than what we saw in qualifying, so could see some rain, could spice things up. It's really going to bring out the skill in some people in changeable conditions, so it'd be great to see, actually, from a neutral perspective, some rain.
It would certainly be very, very, very interesting, and I'm sure we'll just get the formation lap started in just a matter of moments. But just take this time to just let you know, you might have already heard from last week, we do have a competition out. We're willing to give away on our Instagram and Twitter. You can find out that we're giving away some gloves, so if you're interested in that, you can check out our socials at Instagram at Invictus Racing League, on Twitter you can find us at Invictus RL, so you can find out all the details if you are interested in finding them. Of course, you can find us on Facebook as well. We can also our website, we can find news, photo albums, questionnaires to the guys, and of course a Hall of Fame statistics as well. And Drajo is going to get us underway then for this formation lap, and it's quite a short run into turn 1, Charlie, but of course because the centre S is that left right left, it can be really good for battling, and of course it's going to be really tight for a lot of these guys, especially in the mid pack.
Yeah, you can, although you may not get the complete run on someone down to turn 1 to be able to go past them, you can definitely start to line up a move for turn 4 later on in the sequence of corners. So yeah, you could expect to see some action at the start, but everyone really, it's a treacherous corner, and everyone really needs to just get through there safely on lap 1.
Of course, we've seen absolute chaos in the F1 League on Monday night. It was a really, really interesting race to watch. Realistic performance as well on Tuesday last night as an equally chaotic race. So let's hope for some action similar on the lines of that. It would be absolutely fantastic. And of course, there's the grid for this evening. Of course, Craig down to P9, and your championship leader Luke Bailey, he's in P2 in the championship. He's down to 13th. There's a lot of points to potentially gain. Someone like Drajo starting P1, if he gets a good start, and he said he's already won this bar, he's got his eyes on the championship if he can just do it. He knows he's got to be consistent, and it's such a hard thing to do, but he knows there's some big points potentially to gain on a lot of these guys. Bernard starting in P8, he's behind the Ferrari of Colin. He'll be looking to try and get a good start and push on from his impressive race in Germany. So Spud starting at the back, and of course F1 Richard as well, starting P16. He's third in the championship as well. So many of these guys who are really at the front fighting for the championship have not had a great qualifying session, but drivers who had perhaps not a great race in Germany, as we were saying earlier, Drajo, Wojtek and Steele, they've really got a point to prove now. They can really try and limit the damage that they had in Hockenheim a week ago, and just waiting for the last of the cars to line up. As saying, short run into turn 1, but it really can throw a spanner in the works because it's so tight. If you don't leave enough space, you can find yourself plummeting to the back. But all 18 cars now are just teasing the engines like this. They wait for the 5 red lights, and the engines now just begin to build up their revs and they're just waiting for them to go out. And they're out now, and there's round 6 is underway. And it looks like it's a good start from Dragio, and Wojtek looks like he's fighting so desperately for space, but Krav has got an absolute blinding start. He's gone into lead in turn 1. Dragio's gone wide onto the grass, trying to fight a little bit too hard. He's going to come back on, and he's hit Wojtek and spun. He's right to the back, and he's spun all the way around. Wojtek's going to drop just behind Steele, and now Simon Palmer, and Steele was going, is it a safety? No, it's not a safety car, it's just, oh, there's a Mercedes, and the Mercedes JSP's gone flying into the wall back across the track. He's taken out some front wing of Synchronously, I think it was. Luke Bailey's got involved as well, and there is a safety car. That was absolute chaos there. And who's just saying there, Charlie? Dragio with a great chance to try and recoup some of those points. Perhaps just a little bit hot in the brakes, went on the grass, just tapped the back of the Mercedes, Wojtek it was, and just spun around, and he's now finding himself in 17th.
Yeah, I think him getting a terrible start and Gareth getting a lightning start just compounded Dragio's misery going into turn 1, and he just went in a bit too hot, trying to probably gain some of that time back, and found himself on the back foot, wrong line into turn 2, and just understeered into the Haas and Wojtek, and spun himself around. It's really unfortunate, but you know, mistakes can be made when you're pushing hard into turn 1. So the safety car is out. He'll have a chance to repair any damage should he need to, and he'll be on the back of the grid, and he's very quick, we know, so he won't be it's not the end of the world, let's say that.
No, so yeah, a few cars coming to the pits there. It doesn't surprise me at all. Synchronously, Luke Bailey, we know those guys seem to get caught up in that mess of the Mercedes of Steele B. Of course, an absolute disaster for Steele. Really feel sorry for him. Had a good qualifying, and of course wanted to try and recoup as many points as he could after the disaster of Hockenheim. And wow, it was really unfortunate. It just comes flying into the wall back across the track, and it's really unfortunate. But see 4 guys into the pits of Malc, Luke Bailey, Tinnis and Synchronously. It'd be interesting if those guys, will they try and put on the hard tyres, will they just try and go to the end from here? Certainly could be worth their while. Dragio, of course, down to 13th. He's lost 12 places on that opening lap, but good first lap from F1 Richard. He's now put himself into P10, so from 16th he's got himself up into the points. Jeffrey as well has put himself right behind the championship leader of Craig, and Bernons as well is up into P6. But what a start from Gareth. I mean, that was lightning.
Like you say, lightning off the when the lights went out, and just he was already past Dragio going into turn 1. It was incredible start, and yeah, he's looking in good form already in this race. Just needs to get a good start under the safety car restart, and try and pull a gap on Simon Palmer. Sorry.
Yeah, see the guys who came into the pits there. Luke Bailey, interestingly, came in for a new set of soft tyres, so he's clearly not too worried about going all the way to the end. He just wants to get back up into the train, 14th, fresh new set of soft tyres. He wants to get himself back through the field the best he can, and he'll have to pit again. And the cars behind him all pitting for the set medium tyres. It's going to be, as you say, tyre wear isn't too bad around here, Charlie, but even so, it's going to be quite a stretch to maybe try and get them to the end.
Yeah, I'm not sure he'll be able to go to the end from there. Probably will be another pit stop if he's, like say, gone on to the medium. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, he'll definitely need another pit stop, and he'll be hoping for another safety car to help him get away with that one.
Absolutely, of course. So Stephen now in 7th place. He's on the medium tyre, so he is the highest running driver on those medium tyres, but he knows his teammates in the lead, and I'm sure Gareth will be licking his lips, not just the fact he's in P1, but the fact he's got Simon Palmer behind him, and Simon is saying he's been such an expert in seasons qualifying, one of the most consistent qualifiers on the grid, and he's had a really nice first lap to his all credit to find himself into second, making the most of other people's mistakes there, which is all you can really ask for a driver. And I'm sure we'll be looking to get it. But Simon's race pace hasn't always been there. Japan, of course, it was incredibly it was on fire in terms of the race and qualifying. He was in a league of his own. But if you're Gareth, you're perhaps licking your lips, looking at your mirrors at a driver who hasn't had it all his own race in the race on the race pace.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be very wary of Simon behind him, who's probably out to win this one, considering he showed such promise after round 1 in Japan and took that win easily. So Gareth will be very wary of Simon behind him and watching out for any moves into turn 1. Let's just see if he can hang on to that lead and build that gap and break the DRS zone gap.
And Yeah, it'd be very, very interesting. And of course, his teammate up in 7th place was staying on the medium tyres as well. So if he can just stay there, try and stay in the DRS of Brennan's ahead of him, try and get through the soft phase without losing any positions, he'll be sat in a very nice position, I'm sure. And so it's a real chance for Williams with, of course, one of the alphas of Luke Bailey at the back, synchronously in 16th, Craig down in 8th. And McLaren's in 6th and 10th respectively. There has been a bit of a three-horse race in the constructors so far. Williams, one of those teams who potentially has got the potential to try and catch up with them, and tonight could be a real opportunity for them for the opening 4 laps. Of course, safety car I'm sure will be coming in just hopefully this lap. And well, Gareth knows he's got a real opportunity tonight. He's got some really good pace. We've been seeing him practice around the circuit. I think it's the circuit he feels very comfortable with, and certainly be interesting. Can he make it 6 different race winners out of 6 and give himself the perfect way to start, to end the first half of the season? Synchron usually gets a 5-second time penalty there for track extension. I'm not quite sure how he's managed that under safety car. 5 seconds as well is quite a heap of a penalty. I'm sure he'll be able to serve it during his next pit stop at least. But if you're one of these guys at the back, Charlie, particularly Luke Bailey, you're second in the championship from 14th. What's he got to do tonight to try and regain some positions?
Well, like we pointed out earlier, he's gone onto the soft tyre, and obviously he's banking on the fact that he's got the pace to cut his way through the field and get into the point scoring position. So safety car in this lap, as we expected. Yeah, he's got to get a move on after this restart really straight away. He's just got to start cutting his way through the field, and likewise Dragio still out there on his soft tyres. So those two guys got their work cut out, but they've got pace, so I expect to see them pulling off some moves.
And Gareth now backing up the pack the best he can. Will he leave it as late as he possibly dares, just like in real F1? Verstappen leaving it almost right up to the start finish line. He doesn't want to give Simon Palmer a toe at all into turn 1. He wants to give himself the best chance of leading as he now chooses his moment to bolt, and he's going to come around this start finish line, and he's looking like he's already got himself a little bit of cushion. He's caught out Simon Palmer just a little bit, but the one man he hasn't caught out is JSP. He's looking down the inside of Wojtek, just thinks better of it as Wojtek goes a little bit wide, maybe just saw the Mercedes in his mirrors and just made a little mistake, but now Colin's got a nice exit as well, so it's looking really nice as Craig looks like he's picked up a position on Williams already. And Stephen is going to try and want to defend his position as he can, because he's got medium runners behind him, and he wants to try and keep up with these soft runners the best he can. But it's a very nice restart so far from Gareth. Simon is right with him though, but second back is Wojtek, and he's got JSP really close for company. It's going to be a really interesting lap, but Gareth knows he's got to try and break DRS as soon as he can. He's got a couple of laps to do it, because DRS is so powerful around here.
Yeah, Gareth and Simon there really just bolted and sort of left Wojtek, but he's coming back at them through this middle sector, so he's going to want to stick on the back of him. JSP also looking very racy at the restart there up against Wojtek, but he's dropped back a little bit now and is falling into the clutches of Colin a little bit.
Yeah, the Ferrari driver looking very, very solid tonight. He's after his first points of the season in Germany. He wants to continue that good form, and of course P5 is in a really nice position to do that. No DRS this lap, but one man who perhaps doesn't need DRS is Craig. He's lining up the McLaren of Brennan's. He's going to look to the outside line side. Brennan's going to defend it the best he can. Both break very, very late. Going to try to hang it around the outside. Brennan's cuts just about ahead. I think Craig thought better of it. I think that was a wise move. Championship leader doesn't want to perhaps lose his front wing. Brennan's runs a little bit wide around the exit of the centre S's. But Craig's going to come back in the slipstream. He's going to have a look down the inside. Thinks better of it again. But Brennan's now 1.1 seconds, and it could be a little bit of an easier move for Craig if he can stay in the DRS lane of Brennan's, especially if Brennan's doesn't have the DRS advantage on the Ferrari ahead of him. But JSP now crucially a second behind as well. The top 3 maybe just trying to make a break for it, and JSP's got to be very careful if he doesn't get DRS on this front 3.
Yeah, it's crucial that you pick up the DRS off the car in front, otherwise if you've got a car as close behind as Colin is to JSP, you will just be a sitting duck at some point, either down into turn 1 or down into turn 4 after that second DRS zone.
And Gareth is really struggling to shake the Alfa Romeo off his rear wing, and coming now flying across the start finish line. 2 tenths. The Alfa Romeo is looking very slippery. It's very slippery in a straight line in Germany. Is it very slippery in a straight line in Brazil? He's going to look to the outside line. It's not going to get it done around there. Of course, DRS is now enabled, so he should have it on the exit of the centre S. And Gareth's gone a little bit deep there, and is now right on the back of the Williams driver is Mr. P. He's now going to come around the outside of DRS with a good exit, and it looks like he's already got the move done. Gareth's going to come back under on the brakes as late as he dares, and Mr. P is going to try and come around the outside the best he can. And Simon is still side by side, is now going to be rushing up to turn 6 at the top of the hill. Simon has that inside line. Gareth going to try and come back underneath him. He thinks, just tries to get his front wing there, thinks better of it. But that was really nice racing for Simon. Just got a better exit out of the centre S.
Yeah, he kept his composure there on last night in realistic performance. He wasn't so fortunate, but yeah, he kept his composure there and got the move done really well. Gareth, let's see if Gareth's got an answer for him now. He should have DRS up this next straight. If he just gets a good exit out of this corner here, he might have a good run on him.
Half a second is the gap, and of course Mr. P, Simon Palmer was about 4 tenths behind him. He didn't have DRS, so it'd be interesting to see what the gap is like. It did seem very quick in a straight line, but here comes Gareth and the Williams. What sort of straight line speed has he got? The gap now climbing and closing all the way down to just 2 tenths of a second. He can have a little look on the outside. Fast lap of the race there, 12.0 from Craig, and he's up into P7. He's going to try and force his way through the grid as well, and it looks like Colin and JSP just having a little tussle there, and it looks like the Ferrari has got past him and up into 4th place. So a really nice move there from the Ferrari drivers. Gareth weaving lift this way and that, trying to try and get in the mirrors of Simon Palmer. It's like might have got a collision at the back there.
I think Tennis lost it in turn 3, just sort of power.
Oh, sorry, as Gareth comes straight back down the inside of turn 6 of Simon. He got a lovely launch out of turn 4 and 5, and up the hill we got down the inside and pulls off a fantastic move. I'm sure Simon Palmer was not expecting that one all too much, and but he knows if he stays in the DRS, he's got another chance. Sorry about it, Charlie, but a fantastic move there from Gareth.
That's right. Yeah, I was just saying that I've seen Tennis sliding his way around turn 3 on the inside curve, which is not the optimal line, and I think he's back up and running. I don't think he picked up any damage.
Now it'll be really interesting. Do they swap positions again? It seems to be a real tussle between these top two. Wojtek not being dropped at all. I'm sure he's almost licking his lips at these two fighting. And Simon now going to look around the outside. He's late on the brakes. Gareth defends it. It goes a little bit wide onto the grass even, and now Simon is going to try and hang it around the outside. He's now going to have the inside line for turn 3, but Gareth is still just by ahead, and Wojtek, as we were saying, licking his lips at these two tussling. He's now going to have a look, and they're almost going 3 wide into turn 4. It's going to be Brave. Who thinks better of it? It's going to be Wojtek, but Simon's going to send it down the inside, and Gareth's going to try and hang it around the outside and go side by side around turn 5. I'm going to be up the hill side by side again. It looks like it might have just banged wheels a little bit, but Gareth's got the inside into turn 6. What can Simon Palmer do? He's going to try and hang it around the outside. It just about cuts in front of the Williams driver. Now Gareth losing the rear, and he's into the wall, and he's broken his front wing. And that seemed like that was just always going to happen, but it's such an unfortunate error, this virtual safety car, but that was so close racing.
Yeah, he just I think Gareth should have just admitted defeat going up that hill. Simon was, that's really just a momentum corner, and it doesn't matter if you're on the inside or outside of that corner. If you've got the momentum, you've pretty much got the corner, and I think Gareth should have really just admitted defeat going into there and picked his fight a little bit better. But yeah, the virtual safety car, I don't know if it would stay out long enough for him to pit and repair that wing, but yeah, unfortunately it was good battling though while it lasted, and I'm sure Wojtek will now be on the back of Mr. P. Mr. P pits, Simon Palmer pits, sorry.
Yeah, it's quite a decision here. He's certainly hoping for the virtual safety car to stay out as long as it can. It's still out for the moment, so he's going to get a cheap pit stop, and it is around this time that the virtual safety car does now end. DOS back enabled as well. That's saying it's so unfortunate for Gareth there. There's such good racing, and it looked like he was going to get it all race long. But one man this does promote is Colin up into P3, now P2, due to the pit stop of Simon Palmer. And he's looking so incredibly racy in that Ferrari. Ferrari have had such a difficult start to the season, but he's absolutely loving the Brazilian Interlagos circuit. And he's all over the back of that Haas driver. Brennons is almost struggling to keep up with him, almost a second gap between them. And Gareth is still in the pit lane. He's got a lot of work to do. JSP as well, I'm not sure. What happens to him? He might just fancy a cheap pit stop as well. So you've got so those 3 are at the back, and they've got a little bit of clear air now. Simon Palmer's got a few second gap to catch up to Tennis, but he should have plenty of time to pin in some good laps to try and gain on this guy. It'll be interesting to see what sort of lap time Wojtek and Colin come into the pit lane. Do they immediately follow Simon Palmer, or do they think they've got plenty of life left in those soft tyres to try and create a gap? And Colin in that DRS zone, he's looking really nice in the straight line. He's got just not quite close enough to try it to turn 1, but they're almost breaking that second gap of Brennons, who's just about keeping with him. Craig just about keeping with the McLaren, who's it's been quite nice first opening laps from Craig. Of course, he's qualified all the way down in P9. He's got himself through the mistakes of others and of course a couple of pit stops, but he's got himself back up into P4, and I'm sure he'll be really pleased with that because it's a good recovery drive so far.
Yeah, I do think it's a bit peculiar that both Simon and Gareth, I know Gareth's a bit further back, but Simon's pitted for the hard tyre. I know he did pit a bit early, but the tyres are really durable around here, and yeah, you can do 16 laps quite comfortably on the soft, so I'd expect that you could do another 10 on the medium quite comfortably as well. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out for him, and if Wojtek can make these extra few laps on the softs count when he eventually changes over to what we would think be mediums.
Yeah, it'll certainly be very interesting. Of course, two drivers in particular we cannot discount is Stephen and Jeffrey. They're just a second and a half behind the Renault Craig in 5th and 6th, and they're still on the medium tyres, so they've got plenty of life left in those tyres as Wojtek comes across the line at 11.7, so a new fastest lap of the race. And he certainly is making those lap times count, no soft tyres. He knows he's got to try and create a gap as Colin just picking up a 3-second time penalty, which is not what he wants, but it has at least got an excellent run out of the centre S for it, as Wojtek perhaps losing just a little bit of momentum. He's going to have a look down the inside of turn 4, he's going to mount the curve. Haas going to run a little bit wide to relieve him space. So to come around turn 5 and 6 together, turn 5 together, come up the hill into turn 6. The Fly's got it done. He's gone into the lead. So after qualifying into P7, I think it was Colin started, he finds himself leading the race. Of course, he has still got that pit stop to make, but his race pace has been fantastic tonight. It looks like Malc's gone in the wall exit at turn 5. Virtual safety car.
Yeah, virtual safety car again. It looks like he's just lost it on that curb, and unfortunate for Malc, it can be quite easy to lose it on the exit there, so maybe just pushing a little bit too hard, probably battling with someone, and yeah.
But we saw Simon Palmer taking advantage of the virtual safety car to pit. Surely if you're calling Wojtek, Reynolds on Craig, this is now the perfect opportunity to take that same advantage and pit this lap, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd say they'd definitely be able to go on the mediums from here, so it'd be interesting to see if they do. I think Wojtek is diving in.
Colin thinks better of it, as too does Brennons and Craig, so that's a strange decision. It'd be very interesting to see where Wojtek comes out. Drive-through penalty for Gareth, so this race goes from bad for worse. For speeding under virtual safety car, a little bit unfortunate for Wojtek. As soon as he comes into that pit lane, the virtual safety car ended, so maybe that's why those three stayed out. They got the message that it was ending soon, so they thought, no, I'm going to stay with it and try and create a gap.
Is Wojtek going to get out ahead of Mr. Simon Palmer now? That they are side by side, I believe, on the track map. I think Simon is just going to get a better run round turn 3 than Wojtek is in the pit lane, and he's come out probably around about second and a half behind Simon. And
but this is now crucial for Colin. He has picked up a 3-second time penalty, but like I said, he's been looking so strong on the soft tyres for these opening 12 laps, and he's got himself a 1.7 second gap to Brennons, and so he's clear from behind. He hasn't got the DRS to worry about. Craig is the problem for Brennons. Brennons is going to be looking back rather than forward. I'm sure he's going to try and do the best lap times he possibly can. It'll be interesting, of course, to keep an eye on further back between Wojtek and Simon. Of course, those two are effectively probably net first and second position. But see what Colin could do. If he's going to pit this lap, no, they both think better of it, as does the McLaren and the Renault, so they've still got plenty of life left in those tyres. Craig in the slipstream, man, got the DRS, and the McLaren's going to look to the inside. Does he think to go for it? Thinks better of it. The McLaren braking very late on the brakes, and but again, Stephen and Jeffrey doing quite a nice job, 4th and 5th on those medium tyres. They're keeping themselves up with these guys.
Yeah, they're looking really comfortable at the moment. Yeah, pretty handy on those mediums, so they could find themselves in a really good position come the end of the race, especially if, say, we were to have another safety car around the time they wanted to pit. They could gain a massive advantage and be really looking at pushing the podium places at the end of the race.
Yeah, as Craig's looking all over the back, trying to work out the inner workings of that McLaren rear wing, and he's just trying to keep within the second sectors. Colin now 2.7 clear of Brennons. He's gained almost a second over these last 2 laps. He's absolutely flying out there. He's got absolutely no problems with grip on his soft tyres, and I'm sure he's putting in some fantastic lap times. Has got an incident?
No, not an incident as such, but Tracio is just really pushing to try and get past Jeffrey and Stephen. And just in the hairpin in sector 2, he just slid his way into it, slid his way through it, and slid his way out of it. And yeah, he's decided to bail. He's had enough of those soft tyres now, so it was looking like they were getting a bit ropey for him.
And here comes Craig and Brennan side by side through the centre S, and it's Craig who does finally get past. Brennan's struggling just a little bit. It looks like those soft tyres maybe just degrading a little bit more than Craig, and Renault has pulled off a really nice move there. Craig went side by side for the first 2 corners, but it was Craig who had the better line out of the centre S, and he's got a job in his hands. He's got a 3.8 second gap to the race leader Colin, and he's going to try and use all the pace and all the life he's got left in those soft tyres to try and pull away from Brennan, try and play that DRS. And of course I'm sure he'll be aiming, but once he's made his pit stops, to be somewhere near Colin, somewhere near Wojtek and Simon Palmer. But if I'm just thinking, Charlie, if Colin can just eke out these lap times, we saw him do a new fastest lap of the race, so he's clearly got plenty of grip, but if he can just do these lap times a little bit more, in the lap or two, surely Simon and Wojtek are going to be coming up to the traffic of Sir Spuds, his teammate, ironically, and all these drivers on hards and mediums, so he could really be in a good position if those two begin to get holed up.
Yeah, I kind of expect Colin to be pitting in the next couple of laps, so I'm not sure. He might just run out of time unless Spud is really struggling for pace to hold up Simon. But yeah, it could work out that way if Colin does stretch it and Simon does get held up behind Spud. I think Tinnis has lost it out in the last corner. He's going very slowly. I'm not sure if he's got damage. Don't think he's picked up damage.
I think he might have just had contact with maybe one of the Renault cars, but sadly while he was looking at that, Jeffrey has made a move on O'Stephen, so that makes him now the top runner of those medium tyre cars. Puts himself into 4th position, just 1.9 seconds off Brennan's in the McLaren. I'm sure this is the sort of time where these medium drivers got to try and really put their foot down now. These soft runners who haven't made their pit stop yet, they've got to be trying closing the gap, and I'm sure Jeffrey will be looking to do that. And crucial for Brennan to stay in the DRS of Craig. Craig's now 4.5 seconds behind Colin. Colin's absolutely flying in his first stint. Surely, if he can just, of course, the virtual safety car and safety car will be helping him a little bit with the degradation of his tyres, and he's certainly feeling okay. But if he can just, as you're saying, just keep it a little bit more. Simon Palmer now just 1.1 seconds behind Sir Spud, the second Ferrari there. So if Sir Spud can just do him a favour or two, and Colin now does come into the pit. So this is crucial. He's done surely all he can in those soft tyres, but he's picked up 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane, and surely undone so much of that good work. We'll still see where it comes out, but I mean that's such a massive lot of time to lose. And of course if he doesn't get out in front of the fighting pair of Simon and Wojtek, and Sir Spud is now surely Simon just coming around to start finish line now. He's in the DRS zone of his Ferrari teammate. It's going to be very tight. Yeah,
I think this is going to be tight. I think Colin might have just got Simon here. Those those incredible laps that he's put in have helped him to jump Simon by the looks of it and come out just in front of his teammate. That's worked out perfectly. If it wasn't for that 5-second penalty, he could have found himself in an even better position here.
Well, he still might be able to find it a little bit because he's come out on a brand new set of medium tyres, and of course Simon's now a 7-lap-old hard, so of course he's certainly got the tyres to try and break that 5. Of course, I think he's got a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting as well, as Wojtek now picks up 3 seconds, so that does ease a little bit of pressure off Colin. It's crucial now for Simon that he does get past that Ferrari of Sir Spud. As Brennan's is keeping really nicely with Craig. I'll be probably expecting these two to come into the pits, if not this lap, surely the next, as Craig does dive into the pits. Brennan's goes a little bit longer, so he wants to be preserving his medium tyres, giving them a nice easy ride. It's about half race distance. See where Craig comes out, but Colin now has got to absolutely fly. He's got a 1.5 second gap to his teammate, which is absolutely crucial, but he's got to break that 5-second gap at least. But it's going to be very close. He has made his life harder.
It's looking like he is flying already. He seems to be swirling away from Sir Spud and Mr. Simon behind. Sorry, Simon is still struggling to get past Spud. He's got a run on him down into turn 4. I think he's going to send it now because he needs to clear him, and he is down the inside. Is Spud going to fight back? No. Simon's got the move done nice and incisively there. So Simon really needs to get a move on now if he wants to keep within that 5 seconds of Colin on those mediums.
It's already dropped 2 seconds, but of course Colin has still got cars to pass, but and Luke Bailey also on those soft tyres still. Of course, I think he had damage on their opening lap, so he played for a brand new set. He's all over the back of the Red Bull of nitro gas, and of course this is the critical time for these guys who have started on the medium tyres. They want to try and get up all the performance they've got left in those tyres. As Luke Bailey all over the back, and it looks like it's surely been easy to pass. He might come into the pits anyway. No, he's going to stay out. He's got DRS. He's got a little bit of a slipstream. And going to be side by side coming to turn 1. Looks like Nitro, as Brennan's comes into the pit lane. Looks like Nitro Gas might be easy meat. Is he going to try and hang it around the outside No, he thinks better of it and ducks out. But there we are, a new fast lap of the race by Colin. He seems like he's just got just as good pace on the mediums as he did on softs.
Yeah, carrying on as he left on the softs. He's, just streaking away from Simon behind. So, like I'm saying earlier, I'm not sure that changing onto those hards for Simon has really been the optimal strategy for him, and he just seems to be losing time hand over fist to Colin now.
3.2 seconds, so he's lost already about a second to Colin over just the last lap and a half. As F1 Richards getting pretty handy with Stevens, just lost a little bit of a time there in this middle sector. Maybe just got a little bit enthusiastic on the throttle. He's going to have to look a little bit behind to the Alfa Romeo of Luke Bailey. He's done well through 17 laps on those soft tyres and still looking forward. He's not looking forward to putting or anything. He's looking forward to getting himself through the grid as Wojtek is just half a second behind the Ferrari of Sir Spud in this middle sector. It's going to be hard to pass though. See what Luke Bailey can do, and F1 Richard has come down the home straight, and F1 Richard is going to flick open that DRS. He's not going to pit, so he's going to stay out, and well, he is going to have to pit again. I can assure you, can't do 36 laps on the soft, but he's doing super well at the moment. Of course it is, but it is sort of a case of what might have been for Luke had he not qualified a little bit better and had a bit of a cleaner first lap.
Yeah, and there we go again, another fastest lap from Colin. He doesn't want to go too mad. He needs to keep hold of his tyres, because he will want them come the end of the race. But he's just probably a bit frustrated from that 5-second penalty he picked up, and is just trying to push and get that gap over Simon. So, but yeah, like you said, Luke Bailey, he's doing really well out there on those softs. He's still going, and he's got great pace. He's all over the back of Richard, and he's just cleared nitric gas as well. So, yeah, he's still looking pretty handy out there. I think he'll try and extend this stint.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable pace on such old soft tyres. You're saying degradation is quite easy around his circuit, but that doesn't mean it's still quite an achievement. In fact, he's still pressing forward. It's currently at P4, because he's still going to have to make another pit stop, which will drop in a heap of positions, I'm sure. But he's just looking all the way on that McLaren rear wing. It's going to be almost pushing it up the hill, and of course, but F1 Richard does not have DRS down his home straight. Does Luke Bailey pit this lap? He does have DRS. He has a slipstream, but he is going to pit this lap, so it's going to be crucial to see where he can come out. He's going to be hoping that with fresh mediums, I'm sure he's going to be looking to try and be somewhere, probably behind Brennans and Treasure, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'd imagine that he'll be even quite a way behind them. He's going to fall right back, I think, Luke Bailey, unfortunately. But if a safety car comes out and he's able to close up, he will be looking very handy on those fresh medium tyres. So yeah, he's just got to pray for a change in the conditions or a safety car now.
And so Spud doing absolute miracle work for his teammate. He knows his teammate's in contention for the race win. He's now holding up the Haas of Wojtek. So Spud did a really nice job holding up Simon Palmer, and he's now doing the same to the Haas driver. It must be infuriating for the Haas driver. You can just see Simon just driving away from him. He knows he's got better tyres than at Alfa Romeo, but he can't quite use them, and that's allowed Craig all over the back on brand new mediums as well, and Brennans as well. It's a lovely lovely train behind the second Ferrari, and it's a really nice teamwork. It's been such a difficult start to the season for Ferrari, but they're looking to end this first half of the season at least on a high, with Colin doing some mega laps. He's now got a 5.3 second gap. Of course, he has got a 3 second time penalty for corner cutting as well, which of course totals about 8 seconds. But I mean, at this rate, the pace he's got is absolutely flying out there, and if his teammate could just hold up Wojtek as well, and Craig and Brennans, he's looking really, really solid. But Craig's not interested in Sir Spud right now. He wants to get in front of Wojtek. He's thinking Wojtek maybe just taking a little bit too long to get past the floor. He's going to look around the outside of turn 1. He's got a little bit better grip, and he's just tapped him, and that's just sent the Haas of Wojtek into a spin. And it's just so tight. He's quite sensible in his redraw, and I think that's good driving there for Wojtek, making sure he doesn't come back on the track in front of the Mercedes there. But that was so tight there.
Yeah, it looked a bit unfortunate. It's just hard racing into turn 1 and 2, and no one's going to give really. I think Craig might have been trying to back out, but Wojtek had probably already turned, and it just looked like a racing incident, unfortunately to me. But yeah, we'll see. It's unfortunate for Wojtek. He was running really well, but Craig upper place now, not in the way he would have liked to have done it, but he needs to just crack on and get past that Spud.
Of course, he is in that DRS zone of the Ferrari, as Stephen and F1 Richard now pit from second and third respectively. They've done all they can on 21 laps on those medium tyres. And they're now beginning to, and Synchronously also pit. So this is now beginning to be the turnover point now. We'll be seeing these guys on the medium tyres who are suffering through this first stint with a more durable but slower tyre. They're now going to be on their soft tyres as Luke Bailey does 11.2 as Luke Bailey's on a new set of soft tyres. So that's be interesting to see him come through the field. He's all over the back of Zdrazio. But this is the critical point now, because these guys who started on the medium tyres, they're going to be brand new soft tyres and they'll be flying their way through the field. As CEO Stephen just rejoining there, just ahead of the Mercedes of JSP, so he's going to be right in the back of this train quite soon, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so something that I hadn't noticed, Luke Bailey qualified on the medium tyres and he's then pitted for 2 sets of softs afterwards, so he has done both of his tyre compound runs in this race, and he's on the soft tyre, so yeah, he's going to be looking very handy now between now and the end of the race, and he's going to want to be making up some places. So yeah, it's actually not worked out as bad as I initially thought for Luke Bailey, and he's on right at the back of Zdrazio and eager to get past.
Absolutely, and of course someone who's certainly eager to get past is the Renault, our championship leader, Craig. He is just 0.2 of a second behind Sir Spud. He's absolutely fuming, I'm sure, trying to get past this Ferrari. Ferrari's done an absolutely sterling job, maybe even staying out a little bit longer than he perhaps need to. I'm sure he can come on the soft tyres right about now, but he wants to try and hold up these cars for his teammate, and Craig goes around the outside of turn 2. No contact this time. It's a very nice move from the Renault driver. Sir Spud is now going to look behind and see the McLaren of Brennan's and Luke Bailey arriving very, very quickly. But Colin has now pulled a 7-second gap to Simon Palmer, and of course Simon on those 14-lap hard tyres is going to a little bit struggle towards the end of the race, so it's looking very nice for Colin despite those big penalties that he is going to have to take into account for, of course, when he crosses that start-finish line. But he's looking absolutely, he's flying up there, he's incredible pace out there, and he's only second behind nitro gas as well.
Yeah, I'm just riding on board with Simon Palmer at the moment, and it doesn't look hooked up now that Alfa Romeo, those hard tyres. He's looking like he's really struggling through the middle sector, so I'm not sure. 12 laps to go on those tyres that he's been on a lot longer than some of the other guys behind who are also on a softer compound. He could find himself under pressure come the end of this race.
No, what does Sir Spud do? He's kept Simon Palmer behind him the best he can. He's kept Craig up behind him for a number of laps as well. He's done everything he possibly can for his teammate, and he's still going on. He's playing an absolutely team supporting role. Sadly, he's going to be powerless to stop the McLaren going around the outside of him into turn 1. He's going to try and defend it on the brakes as best he can. Just drag wheels just a little bit. He just to keep hold of it. It's a really strong defence, and of course Zdrazio now picks up 3-second time penalty. But he's playing the team game here, Charlie. But he's doing an absolutely mighty job. He's got to be careful though from Luke Bailey. But I mean, this is a teammate. I don't think you could really ask much more from him, could you? He's sacrificing his own race effectively.
He is the perfect blockade at the moment. He's just dropping everyone about a second back every time they get up behind him. Yeah, he's really helping his teammate and sort of sacrificing himself, unfortunately. But you can do these things in Formula 1. That's why it is as a team sport, as much as it is about the drivers. So yeah, he's doing it well, and I'm sure he'll want to get off those hard tyres and have some nice grip on the soft too.
I mean, that thing must be driving like an absolute boat runner. Some of those corners, you see him try and get on the power on that last corner, and there's just absolutely no comparison in terms of traction between himself and Luke Bailey, who's on a new set of soft tyres. He has got DRS on the McLaren of Brennan, so it might just give him just half a chance to keep Luke Bailey behind for another lap. Luke Bailey's, I'm sure, determined to get past. There's a little sniff down the inside, but it's not quite close enough as Spud goes a little bit wider at turn 1. As long as he gets a good exit. But Luke Bailey with just so much better traction, so much better turning on that Alfa Romeo, might have an easier job come turn 4, because he's going to be side by side coming down the straight. He's got DRS as well. McLaren of Brennan's not quite pulling away, but Sir Spud's now going to try it around the outside best he can, but it just hasn't got the grip. But as you're saying, we've got to praise him, because as well as he is defending, it's absolutely 100% clean.
Yeah, it is 100% clean. He's maybe trying a little bit too hard to hang on to positions through corners where he really hasn't got the grip. But yeah, now he's fallen straight back into the clutches of Zdrazio, and is costing Zdrazio a little bit of time now.
And see now the gap between first and second, 9.2 seconds. Colin is absolutely in a league of his own tonight. Even with those penalties, got to be crucial. He doesn't get another one come these last 10 laps now, but he's absolutely flying. A sensational drive. It's out of the absolute blue. Ferrari have had such a difficult start to the season. None of us saw this coming. Sir Spud finally comes into the pit, which that's the now released ratio, but he's got to look behind it. So Stephen now sends it down the inside on those brand new set of soft tyres. He's going to try and hug the inside of turn 1. He's now going to try and hang it around the outside of turn 2. Has to go off the track. A lovely shot from the helicopter there. Cuts a little bit of the track of turn 3, backs out of it. And maybe a bit of a sportsmanship move there, as he's now going to be careful behind, because Jeffrey on those new set of softs is trying to take the pair of them into turn 4, and well, he's pulled off. He's pulled both of them off, and now Ratio leaves the space, and a little bit of a wheel bang between him and the Williams. There's Ratio, then the wheel bang again, and they've somehow not. It's now the Williams of Stephen now goes off wide, but I mean, for a moment I thought that was going to be a repeat of what we had between. Stephen is in the wall. Safety car.
Not quite sure why Stephen ended up in the wall. He was back on track and going along fine, but maybe he's just opted out and had enough there. But yeah, it was had a bit of wheel bang coming up that hill. I think one of them just needed to be a bit sensible and back out. Ultimately, they're racing. They don't want to do that, and one of them's paid the price. So under safety car, what does this do now? Is Simon going to pit and go on softs? I'm not sure if he is.
Yeah, he is. I mean, one driver who's raced this does really not help is, of course, Colin. It does mean at least can serve his 5-second penalty, but he is now going to drop behind Simon Palmer. Simon Palmer's yet to go into his box. But it's going to come. He's going to have to got a lot of work to do. He has still got 3-second time penalty. This does promote Craig into the lead and Luke Bailey into second. So the two championship rivals, first and second, are now first and second on the track, despite it being nowhere near the race win tonight. They're going to have to defend for all their worth for these last 8-9 laps. But I mean, this is, I think, going to be an absolute manic fest with so many different drivers on so many different tyres. There's going to be Jeffrey, I think, on the newest tyres, perhaps the best tyres, but he's sat in P4. This is going to be so hard for these guys to defend, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this race has gone a funny way about it, but it's given us our two main championship protagonists, 1 and 2, and on different compounds. So we're expecting to get a good little battle here for the lead now between the two, and it was unexpected. And unfortunately, Colin pitted under this safety car, and it's dropped him way down into 7th place when he was looking really comfortable out front. So I'm not quite sure that's worked out for him, unless he is really quick under this restart and gain the positions back. But with only 8 laps going, probably about 6 laps after the safety car comes in, he's going to find himself running out of time, I think. So yeah, there's going to be a few cars now snapping at people's heels, trying to get past on fresh soft tyres, but let's see who can navigate their way back through the best.
As you're saying, so if you go for that alternative strategy, safety cars can have a funny way about them and it really pay off. And as you look, the top 3, Craig, Luke Bailey and Brennans, they've been at their front most of the race, but they're starting the soft tyres. Jeffrey, F1, Richard, Nitrogas, these guys who went long on those medium tyres, and now they've got still pretty good life, I'd imagine, in those soft tyres. They're now sat 4th, 5th and 6th, and they've got better tyres than the 3 cars in front of them. They will be absolutely licking their lips with just 8 laps to go. They wanted the safety car to come in as soon as possible. I'm sure if you're Craig, you'll be very happy to see the safety car go out, come around for as many laps as you can. And this does perhaps at least help Gareth a little bit, because just seeing there on the mini-map, it's just coming around to the start-finish line now. I'm sure I'll be hoping he can catch up to the back of the grid before we get back underway. And at least we'll allow him to at least potentially fight if we might have another incident or two, try and make up some positions, try and salvage a point or two.
Yeah, he could find himself struggling. I'm not sure. Maybe he's run out of sets of soft rubber, but he's moved on to a new set of the medium. So yeah, he might find himself at a bit of a disadvantage to the cars in front, but hopefully he can close up to the pack in this middle sector and we can get the race underway.
It's going to be really, really interesting. Brennan's on 10-lap-old mediums, Craig on 11-lap-old mediums, Luke Bailey on 8-lap-old softs. It's going to be so hard to call those top 3, but I can't squabble too much between them, because behind them I've got guys on almost exclusively fairly to brand new soft tyres, and all the way down to Captain Stiff there in 15th, who's on 1-lap-old mediums, who's probably just run out of soft tyres. It looks like the safety car's going to do at least 1 lap more, which, as I said, surely will be music to the ears of Craig in that Renault. Synchronously, his team went down in P9, Simon down in P8, Colin in P7 after such an incredible race. He'll be feeling that he deserves at least the podium. I'm sure he'll be fighting for all he's worth for the last remaining 7 laps to get himself back up there. But if you're someone like Drazio, who qualified on pole, hasn't gone all your own way, you're sat in P10, guys in front of you are mostly on the same tyre life as you, what can you do? Do you have to just be aggressive, or do you just hope that there's some bit more chaos and fun?
I think you're going to want to be aggressive, but ultimately, on a restart, there can be a bit of chaos, and you've just got to be careful. I think you've just got to let the first lap go, let everything settle, take an opportunity if it's there, of course, but yeah, let everything settle, and then start to pick your fights and see if you can gain any positions, because often if you find yourself trying to make a move on the restart, you can end up in contact with other drivers and ultimately end up in accidents.
There seems to be something about this Interlagos circuit that seems to spice up incredible races, and we saw some fantastic racing, as you said, in F1 and on Tuesday nights in the release performance. And looks like we're going to have one final twist to this race tonight. It just looks like hopefully it saves car will come in this lap and will leave us with about 5 or 6 laps left of pure racing. It's really difficult to call. The top 3 at the moment are pretty much the top 3 in the championship. Brennan's, I think it's in P4, P5 in the championship. F1 Richard is P3. I'm sure he's looking really nicely in P5 with those new soft tyres as well. So it's going to be interesting to see the top 3 on the oldest tyres of the grid, but they have that top trump card of track position, and we're defending it for all it's worth as Jeffrey picks up 5 seconds for a collision with F1 Richard. Not too sure what that's about. As Craig releases the throttle, and it's now caught out Luke Bailey a little bit as Bernals is looking all over the back of that Alfa Romeo. He's going to look to the outside. It looks like Luke Bailey's just braked perfectly for that turn 1, defended his line well. Looks like they've all been a little bit well behaved on turn 1 and 2. As we come through this centre S's, Craig's got a nice launch, but he's got to be careful because Luke Bailey's looking so close behind him, and McLaren and Brennan's as well. Jeffrey a little bit on the grass there as they come down into turn 4, late on the brakes, all 3 of them. It's impossible to call where this one might go.
Yeah, I think Jeffrey's probably looking very handy. He's on the newest rubber out of the top 4. Brennan's on those 12 lap old mediums, Craig on 13, and Luke on 10 lap old softs. Probably don't have that much more life in them. They could balance themselves out with the mediums towards the end, so this is looking to be a really close fight now to the end of the race for the lead.
Absolutely, of course, keep your eye on Colin and Simon Palmer. Those two have been at the front. It's just see Jeffrey just going all the way on the grass there on the exit there, just coming around to this last corner. He doesn't lose a position, but he's lost plenty of time from it. And Luke Bailey's now 4 tenths of a second, just got a little bit of a better run than Craig at that last corner. He hasn't got DRS just yet, but he's going to have a very nice toe. I'm sure he'll be looking at a move as Nigel Glass and F1 Richard all over the back of the racing point as well. And the F1 Richard is going to go down, try and have a look down the inside of the racing point, but he can't quite make it stick yet. So we've got a really nice run out the centre S's as well, has Jeffrey. But go right on board with Luke Bailey, just 3 tenths of a second behind Craig, and I'm sure Craig will be dreading the moment DRS is enabled, because he knows he'd be the one, probably the only driver on the field where he doesn't have that DRS advantage. Yeah,
it's going to be really difficult once it is enabled for Craig to keep Luke and Brennan's behind, because it can be so powerful. If you don't make the pass into turn 1, you got another dose of it down into turn 4. So yeah, exits are going to be really key.
There's JSP just getting swallowed up there by Spud after a change of positions. I think it was Jojo and Synchronously as well. But just coming out almost to the end now of lap 32 as they kind of come around this final corner. And Luke Bailey again not quite losing it. Is something going on?
Yeah, Simon and Colin are battling their way through sector 2, where you don't really see many overtakes. Colin just managed to keep the position, but Simon's looking super aggressive up behind him now.
And once again, Luke Bailey looking all over the back of the Renault. He's not quite got enough straight line speed, but of course now we do have DRS enabled for the last 4 laps. And of course you do have DRS enabled out of this centre S. He's been really competitive coming out of this centre S. Gets really nice traction again. It's just 3 tenths of a second behind the Renault. Nitrogas picks up 3 seconds for time penalties. It's could potentially drop him down a few positions. So Colin won't care one bit about that. He want to get past him on track. He want even more than that. F1 Richards dropped out of the DRS zone of Jeffrey, which could absolutely mean he will be a bit of a sitting duck coming the home straight of this lap. But it looks like any one of the top 4 have got a real chance of crossing their line, crossing that start finish line in 4 laps time as the race winners. Luke Bailey perhaps looking the most aggressive and the most pushing forward the most at the moment. As they're now coming around these 2 tire hairpins, got to try and open up this right hand corner. So obviously the contact between Hamilton and Albon in real life, it's got to be really committed if you're going to send one up the inside there. But I'm sure he's very happy to be patient, because he knows come this home straight he's going to have DRS and a slipstream, and of course all the traction in the world on those soft tyres are coming out this last corner. and it's just already 4 tenths of a second, and I'm sure this might be a little bit of an easy move for him. He's in a DRS zone. He's going to flick open DRS. He's got a yellow flag in that last sector. I think that might be one of the Mercedes. JSP's dropped back.
Yeah, JSP round at the last corner. I'm not entirely sure what happened. I was riding on board with Simon, who's diving down the inside of Colin. Now, is he going to make the move stick? He's well deep. He's over on the grass, and Colin just takes that position off him nice and easily. He's really made a meal of that move. Simon there is trying a bit too hard to get past Colin.
Now, interestingly, I thought it'd be a little bit of a sitting duck for
Richard's gone round. Richard up the inside of Nitrogash, I believe it was, down into turn 4, and they just made contact. Richard gone round, dropped back down to P12 now, unfortunately for him.
Oh, that's really unfortunate for the guy who is sat P3 in the Drivers' Championship. Jeffrey picks up another penalty. He's going to really struggle to get himself on the podium with his penalties, but he is all over the back of Brennon's, and Brennon's struggling just a little bit to keep up with Luke Bailey and Craig. And as I say on the last side, I was thinking it might be a bit of an easy move for the Alfa Romeo drive, but either that Renault is incredibly slippery in a straight line, or maybe Luke Bailey perhaps just laying off a little bit, maybe waiting for the last lap, who knows.
Yeah, like I mentioned a couple of laps ago, Luke Bailey's soft tyres are around that time now where they will even themselves out in terms of pace with the medium tyres that Craig is sat on. So Craig doing a really good job so far, getting the exits that he needs off the corners onto the DRS straights, but now he's got a poor exit, and Luke is going to have a really good run on him down to turn 4.
Let's see Jeffrey and Brennan switching positions as well. It's impossible to call or who to ride the ball. You can see them as Luke Bailey just thinks better of it, and the Racing Point and the McLaren switching positions left and right into turn 4. But it looks like the Racing Point's got it done. Brennan's really struggling with those tyres now. Oh my goodness! And it's just as I say that, coming out of turn 5, Jeffrey just lit up those tyres, got on the curb and just slammed into the wall. Won't be enough time for a safety car. It's just going to be a yellow flag. But goodness me, what a way to bow out of the race with just a lap and a half from home. Brennan's, who's really struggling on those medium tyres, has now meant that Colin's all over the back of him on those brand new set of softs. So maybe Colin will get on the podium after all. He's quietly picked his way back through the field, and I'm sure he'll be lining up the McLaren driver on this last lap of the race. What an incredible ending to the race for Jeffrey. So unfortunate for him. But it'll be interesting to see what can Luke Bailey do as they come around this last corner. This will be his best chance into turn 1. It's going to come down the home straight, but once again that Renault of Craig is absolutely flying down the home straight. It's going to open DRS. It's going to be in the slipstream, but it's not going to be gaining anywhere near enough to see what Colin's going to be able to do. He's going to be looking around the outside of that McLaren driver, going to go wheel to wheel. Really nice, really fine racing, and Brennan's going to have to think and get back out of it as Nitrogas picks up another 3 seconds, but he's going to come back underneath him. He's going to get a DRS zone on the Ferrari. He's going to look down the inside. Is Colin going to fight it? He leaves the door open. Has McLaren got his grip, but it's just bang wheels, and Brennan's now goes into the wall.
Yeah, he just understeered into him, Brennan's, unfortunately. Colin was nice enough, gave him enough room on the inside, and unfortunately for Brennan's, he's just picked up a bit of understeer mid-corner and gone out into the Ferrari of Colin and spun himself around into the wall. Unfortunate ending for his race.
So I think Colin as well picking up another 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits, just going a little bit wide there next at turn 4, and it seems also, as you're saying there, all this chaos has meant that Gareth has now slipped up all the way into P9, so he's going to get a point or 2 for his efforts tonight, assuming he hasn't got any more penalties. I'm sure there's plenty of guys ahead of him who's got penalties, but one thing that cannot be understated is what a great job Craig has done. He's battled his way through, but has got a 3-second time penalty, so Luke has now crossed the line with the race win. Simon Palmer's going to come home in P3. Colin now comes home P4 with penalties. Synchronousley is P5, so Spud P6. Gareth somehow makes it up to 7th. Trejo in 8th. F1 Richard, so many penalties coming across this line. Richard managed to bag himself a couple of points. Nitrogas picked up quite a few penalties in those last 10 laps, rounds out the top 10. But one thing perhaps that would at least explain why Luke Bailey maybe didn't go for the move on Craig. You maybe already knew he had a penalty. Yeah,
now we've seen that, I'm guessing he probably was on the radio to his engineer and asking about penalties for the guy in front, and obviously thought better. Sensible from Luke, really well played out. So yeah, it's played that well and took the win nicely.
Yeah, he's done a really nice job there, and of course it just seemed to be all going wrong for the Alfa Romeo driver after contact on lap 1. Had to pit, he was at the back, but pitted for the soft tyres, and he knew he'd have to pit again, but the safety car came up at the perfect time for him, and did a really good job in the end. A really well taken win for him. Craig and Luke Bailey they might be first and second in the championship. Of course, Luke Bailey now beating Craig does close that championship lead just a little bit for Luke Bailey, so that's going to be really interesting to watch in the second half of the season. And there we are then, Craig with the 3 second time penalty, as too does Simon. Colin as well had a couple of time penalties there, which sadly cost him, but he was absolutely lining a really solid race on the Prix drive. And so Spud, for all his efforts being the wingman, he comes home P6, picks home really nice points as well. Synchronizing in P5, so it's a really good result for Renault, Alfa Romeo and Ferrari. Captain Stiff, I'm sure he'd been looking like he could have won this race, but at least he kept it clean. He got himself a 7th place. Trejo comes home in 8th after starting from pole. F1 Richard is 9th. Nitrogas is 10th, and JSP was in 11th. A chaotic end to the race there, Charlie. At no point did it look like the 2 championship rivals were going to be at the front, but I suppose when you are having a good season, when you are at the front, you do. Good luck can find your way to end up on your doorstep.
Yeah, it's like we say, Luke Bailey was unfortunately caught up in an incident at the start, and luckily for him, things went his way during the race. Other people fell off the track, and he's managed to claim the win all the way from down in P13. So fantastic result for him.
Yeah, really, really well done. So we just wait for our top 3 to get into the party. So we just ask them how their race went. Of course, incredibly chaotic race, and so unfortunate there at the end for so many drivers, so many great races. And of course, Colin was probably the star of man. Did a really, really nice race for him. And but if you enjoyed what you watched, if you really can't wait for the week break to be over, and of course really looking forward to round 7, and of course subscribe. And if you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and give us a rating, give us a comment. And if you want more, like I said, in just 2 weeks' time, we'll be back with the F1 League on Monday night. That's brought to you by Gareth and Sab. The Realistic Performance League on Tuesday, that's Malc and Tim, 8 p.m. F2 is the same time as us, that'll be in a couple of weeks' time on Wednesday, Dan and James. But we do have one more race left for you this week, and that is, of course, Sunday night, the XBOX League. That is 9:30, that's streamed on Twitch. You can find that at twitch.tv/Invictus Racing Leagues. And of course you can hit us up on the socials, Instagram at Invictus Racing League. We do have a competition going on, you can find out all the details on there. Twitter, you can find us at Invictus RL, and of course Facebook, where you can find news, photo albums, interviews, and of course on our website you can also find a Hall of Fame for any statistics that you can find on all your favourite drivers and whatnot. But I believe the podium have all joined up with us now, and I think Charlie might be doing the interviews tonight.
Yeah, so just double check, guys, if you could, that you've got your voices on allow for the party, so we can hear you on the stream. And if you're all ready, I'll start with our race winner, Luke.
Yeah, right.
Great race from you. I mean, after unfortunately being caught up in something in lap 1, you started down in P13 on the mediums. What happened on lap 1? We didn't quite see what sparked the incident. We just saw a few cars.
No, I didn't see. Something happened a bit further on the straight, and there were just nowhere to go. There were 3 cars covering the road. Just had to hit them. There was no stopping.
Yeah. So that was quite unfortunate. And then so from there on, you pitted for the softs both times that you pitted. Was that always your plan after you picked up the damage at the start? Just go on softs and hope for a safety car to maybe bring you back into the race a bit?
It was something I thought about for the last few days. I kind of said I wouldn't have thought if I had just started on the mediums and prayed for a safety car and got 2 sets of softs. And I was gonna start on mediums either way. It just, if there were a safety car, I was gonna go 2 softs. But yeah, it kind of just fell to me with the safety car, really.
Yeah. Well, again, you showed you had good pace and you kept it clean once you were able to recover from that early damage. So yeah, great race, well done. On to Craig. You didn't have lightning pace during the qualifying and the race, but you kept your head down, kept clean, and with mistakes from others, you're on the podium again, which is good.
It is, considering it's my worst track.
Yeah.
So relieved to get a podium. I knew I wasn't going to have outright quality pace. I was just watching the quality times come in of the other guys, just try to get the car on the track at the right time. And yeah, just as you say, keep it clean, take advantage of people's slip-ups, contacts, etc. Just try to remain within a reasonable delta each lap, and just try and adjust to the VSC, safety car throughout. It was just, I think it was the second VSC. I managed to catch Brennan sleeping a little bit, closing the gap before that had actually broke the DRS zone. So it was pretty much just about managing the race, and obviously watching for the Alpha boys coming through.
Yeah. Did you think that you could maybe pull away at the end, or did you just think you just didn't have the pace to be able to do that on those tyres?
I knew I had the penalty, so that's why I've lost it. Luke kept it clean. Again, another race win, lost to penalty, bit of stupidity. But no, happy with second, and on to one of my better tracks next time in Hungary.
Good. And finally on to Simon in P3. Another good race. You know, Craig from P9 up to P2, and you up to P3 from P6. You look pretty comfortable at the start. Once you had a good battle with Gareth. Just talk us through that. How did that pan out? Obviously, you've seen Gareth losing it at the end, but that looked like a bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean the start was a cracker. I think by the time we were going up to the top of the hill to the two right-handers, I've gone from I can't remember where I started, 6th or 7th, and I was sitting P2 straight away. So and then the battle was great. I felt I had a bit of pace on Gareth, if I'm honest. And then obviously the VSC come out, and I took a gamble and dived into the pits for a set of hards, planning on going to the end. But obviously there was a few more safety cars and VSCs, so it didn't quite pan out that way.
Yeah.
But I think a bit of fresh rubber did help, to be honest. But
just a point on your soft to hard sort of gamble in the beginning. Do you regret doing that now, or because it seemed before the second safety car that wasn't gonna work out, and it looked like you were gonna come under pressure from a few cars behind, because you dropped back from Colin quite a way. So are you happy that that second safety car came out and gave you another chance at strategy?
Oh, massively. You know, in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have gone those hard. You know, if you can foresee the safety cars, but you know, luckily there was VSCs and safety cars down the line, so it kind of brought me back into play. And you know, changing for a set of softs at the last minute, I think Colin did the same. I think he jumped in for a set of softs as well. And that certainly brought us back into play towards the end, because I think the other guys would have just pulled away.
Yeah, okay. And I'll just put one more question to all three of you. I'll start with Luke again. Just give us your thoughts on your first half of the season and how you're feeling going into the second half.
Bit of both. Quite happy where I am with the results I've had. Feel like I could have had a big advantage with 2 races, but that's a bit unlucky. But I'm quite happy where I am, to be honest.
Yeah. Craig, same to you. How do you feel your first half has gone, and what are you looking for in the second?
Pretty happy with how the first half of the season's went. These are all my worst tracks. The second half of the season are actually all my better tracks. So if that's what I can do with my poor tracks, I'm excited to see what I can do with some of my better tracks. So it should be good.
Cool, good. And finally, Simon, if you'd like to give us your thoughts on your first half and what you're looking for in the second.
Yeah, do you know what? Exactly same as Craig. First half of the season isn't the best tracks. Second half, I absolutely love. So it's a case of trying to claw back what's been lost. But to be honest, you know, a couple of last 2 weeks have been good results for Alphas. Tonight especially. You know, so hopefully this is the start of the turn and the clawback really. But cracking race. Well done to Luke. Well done to Craig. Craig's definitely one to watch out for, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, consistency is key, and he always seems to just be there. So,
Yeah.
No, it should be a good second half of the season. Looking forward to it.
Well, me and Harry definitely look forward to seeing the three of you and many more battle out in the second half of the season. And that concludes my questions.
Absolutely, just massive congratulations as well to all three of you, and that's one thing as well. Really nice to see both Ferraris getting points after such a hard start to the season. Colin was absolutely flying through so much of that first race, and it's despite for all his teamwork, he managed to get a nib, quite a few points himself. So well done. Of course, in terms of championship, halfway through, and 6 different race winners out of 6 now, thanks to Luke winning. So that's really going to pit the second half of the season with a lot to live up to, and we look forward to it. Even if it is looking in the championship a little bit more like it is going to be Luke versus Craig, and of course a 1 point difference when these guys return for round 7, and looking maybe after a tough race for McLaren as well. Brennan's retiring there, just a lap from home, looking like it's going to be Alfa versus Renault for the constructors, so it's going to be so unpredictable. But that was an incredible race. Yeah, well done to all three of you. Can leave as soon as you feel like you want to. And Charlie, is it already a straight fight between Alfa Renault and Craig and Luke?
It's looking to be that way, but as we've seen, there's plenty of other guys with pace, so I won't rule any of the others out just yet. There's a long way to go. So, but yeah, in terms of constructors, it's looking strong for Alfa and Renault, definitely.
Absolutely, really nice race from Synchronouzi as well. It's good to see him with another 5th place, so it looks like he might just be getting his season a little bit of consistency as well. So we hope you enjoyed tonight, and of course, again, if you want to find more, you can find us on the Xbox League as well. It kicks off Sunday night. That's on Twitch, and you can hit us up on all the socials. But if you haven't already, subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and of course a comment as well. So I hope to see you again in a week or 2 time. Thank you very much.